Welcome, one and all, to the Hammer Territory Podcast. My name is Shawn Coleman. Hope wherever you are and wherever you are listening, hope that there we are, just scanning right here across the room. There we go. Welcome to the Hammer Territory Podcast. Got to make sure that you see loud and clear that proud to be their Braves background. Whatever. But hey, we've got some excitement in the room because Stephen Tolbert is back. That is correct. Gulliver himself back from his travels. Very excited to have him back. Stephen, I hope that you are well rested, sir. A brand new man with an awesome tan. How's everything going, sir? Welcome back. Not a damn thing's changed.
Yeah, I was, what's up, buddy? It's great to be back on with you. I miss talking to you every week. I actually did miss the show. Even though the team sucks, I miss talking about him. It's one of my favorite things to do, even when they're bad. So it's good to be back. It is funny watching the games and just being like sucked right back into the, just the absolute shit show that is the 2025 season. But it is what it is. And, it's trade deadline week. And so we're going to focus on the main thing, which is the trade deadline right now. The Braves have some very interesting pieces who are playing better at a really opportune time, and maybe help the Braves out by Thursday's deadline. 6 p.m. deadline on Thursday is the trade deadline. So, yeah, a couple things to get to. Obviously, we had an injury in tonight's game that we're going to talk about. But as always, it's great to be back with you, buddy. And you're muted. Look at this. This is just classic.
Hey, I was saying, glad to have you back. It's always good to be with you, man. I hope you and your family had a wonderful time. But let's get right into it. Yes, the Braves, kind of surprisingly, it's kind of, disappointing that they haven't made a trade so far because we've had 2 straight days of trades. And that, of course, is relevant today. Erick Fedde, who the Braves traded for on Sunday, he started tonight in Kansas City, 4.2 innings, gave up 4 innings pitch. He looked like a pitcher who was acquired to come and eat innings for a team that's not looking to contend. And that's exactly what he looked like. But of course, Stephen, the other news is that we made another deal for the same reason, acquiring veteran starter Carlos Carrasco. Carlos Carrasco has had 12 to 15 year career in the majors. I know that he's had some injury history, but again, his acquisition is nothing more than just bringing in an arm that can eat innings for the Braves. He had shown the ability to do that at AAA after he had been designated for assignment earlier this year. Your thoughts on the Fedde Carrasco trades and the fact that we got some veteran leadership that means absolutely nothing other than just, hey, go throw 100 pitches.
Yeah, listen, we were calling for this back when Sale got hurt like 6 weeks ago. I don't know really why they took so long to do it. I don't know why they just decided to go bullpen game after bullpen game. This is what we were expecting them to do a while ago. And it took like 6 weeks to get it done. But yeah, these guys who are terrible. Listen, both these guys, Fedde was DFA'd by the Cardinals and the Braves picked him up. Carrasco was in the Yankees AAA team or something like that. I can't remember exactly what it was. But both these guys are bad. And they're supposed to be bad. I mean, that's why they're available for nothing. But it's better than throwing your prospects who aren't ready to be in the majors, just throwing them to the wolves. And that's what we didn't really understand about what was happening with the Didier Fuentes stuff. Like, just go get guys like this who can just eat innings. It doesn't matter how bad they are. The Braves, listen, if you haven't caught on by now, I hope that you have caught on to the fact that the Braves season is effectively over. Like, it's not actually over. They got to play games, but this season's going nowhere and has been for a while. So this is what you do. You go find a couple of this is like when you pop 3 tires on the interstate and you get 3 donuts and you got to get the last 50 miles to the service station. And that's what the Braves did. They went and found a couple of donuts to stick on the car so they can drag it to the service station, which is the off season, and just get it to the house without anything else burning down. And that's what these guys are. That's what I expect them to be. I expect them to be terrible. These games will not be fun to watch, but it's better than burning through your prospects. So this is what they should have done.
Absolutely. And the thing is that, we've talked about it, second half storylines, watch some of our prospects, see what they can do at the AAA level, AA level, what have you. That's going to be interesting to see if it makes sense. If one of them are just absolutely, doing great in the minors and you want to give them a spot start, maybe a Hurston Waldrop, for instance, go ahead, see what he's got. Get an idea of where Hurston Waldrop can be next year. Something like that makes sense. But, burning J.R. Ritchie past his innings limit for this year to pitch in the majors, that doesn't make sense. And that's why you go and make this move for the starters that they did. But, of course, we talk about the season being effectively over. And Scott and I talked about it on multiple occasions last week, Stephen. That means that the whole mentality for the team, it's going to change. And we saw an aspect of that tonight. Ronald Acuna Jr., it appeared last night, Monday night, that he was favoring his right side a bit. And then tonight, on a couple of different plays, going into foul territory and then running after a ball into right center, he was not himself running down those balls. And so the Braves removed him from the game. We later come to find out that it was a right Achilles tightness. Now, I mentioned that. There's no indication or anything that it's some type of serious concern. It seems to be more precautionary. But when it comes to an Achilles, Stephen, you mentioned that's not anything you want to hear. When it comes to an Achilles, you have every reason to not only be precautionary in normal situations, but especially when you have no reason to push your true franchise player.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been great if the team could have hit us with like a calf tightness. I know that's basically the same thing, but anytime you see the word Achilles, your heart stops, of course, because obviously if you tear that thing, it's a year plus injury. So, and by all reports, all signs, it looks relatively minor, pretty precautionary. But at this point, like, it wouldn't stun me if they still put him on the IL. It wouldn't stun me if I don't think he was going to play tomorrow anyways, because he's been dealing with back tightness at times. He's looked uncomfortable in the field, like something's bothering him. Whatever it is, sit the dude for as long as he needs. I don't care. Call him in 6 months for all I care. Like, we don't need to see Ronald Acuna Jr. play any more games in 2025 if he's not physically 100%. There's nothing you can gain and a ton you can lose. So my take is, I'm not a doctor. I'm not examining him, but if there's anything remotely close to an injury, you sit him. And you sit him for as long as it takes to get him 100% healthy, and then sit him one more day and then play him. And, there's just absolutely no point in risking anything with Ronald, especially if it's got anything to do with an Achilles. Just rest him. Rest him.
Absolutely. And it sucks to see, overall that, Ronald Acuna Jr., who you just know wants to play ball. Like, that's the thing that stands out to me about these players that, we consider to be our core. We consider to be the reasons why it's not far-fetched to see the Braves wanting to contend again in 2026. Austin Riley just came back from an injury. Chris Sale, Spencer Swellenbach, Ronald Acuna Jr., Spencer Strider was just out for a year. These guys, part of the reason that makes them so great is they just love to play ball, and they just consistently can't. Like, I'm not blaming this year on injuries. I want to make that clear. Injuries are a factor into this season. They've been an unfortunate factor into past seasons. We'll talk about them in a bit more later on in the episode. But to me, they're not the factor into why we've sucked this year. It just sucks that these players that we know love to play the game simply cannot do it consistently without having to deal with these injuries, or they're having to sit to the side even when they're healthy potentially, because we don't want to risk further injury when what we're doing right now doesn't matter.
Yeah, it feels like we made fun of the Mets for all those years because they couldn't keep anybody on their roster healthy. It feels like that's come back to bite us a little bit, like almost like, the World Series we won in 21. It's like, all the good grace that came with that. It's like, here's the other shoe, the other side of that coin is just like crazy injury, bad luck the last 2 years. And no, this team was bad before it lost its entire rotation, but losing the entire rotation is obviously going to take them to a whole nother level of bad. And obviously, if you have injuries to Acuna or any of your other star position players, it's just a whole nother level of misery. So the Braves are due some good injury luck, at least starting in 2026. Obviously, 2025 is come and gone at this point. But my God, can we get a season where we just not even have like perfect injury luck, just like normal injury luck? I mean, it's been absurd the last 2 years.
And even before that, like, and it happens to our best players. Like, it's not
Yeah.
only happening to our
And they're like season long injuries.
yeah, significant injuries. So,
Yeah.
Again, not blaming this year on injuries at all. It's just a simple truth. It's just unfortunate that there's layers to the disappointment that we see in 2025. And the one difference between injuries and all the other factors that potentially could be corrected, if you keep seeing injuries to your pitching staff, especially, or injuries to the level of like an Achilles for Ronald Acuna Jr. Again, don't want to scare anyone. It doesn't appear that there's any serious injury. The point that I'm getting at is these injuries that keep occurring when we get into the second half of the season, if they're serious, they now start to affect 26, and that's when it really gets unfortunate. But hey, we've got plenty of time to talk about the last 2 months of the season in 26. Let's talk about the now, the exciting aspect of being less than 48 hours away from the trade deadline. More on that in just a moment after a word from our partners.
Kratz, at some point, we're going to laugh about how healthcare was so reactive and not proactive. And we're starting to change that with Superpower. They believe every human has 100+ year potential, and they're here to help you get there. I'm a big believer in this. I just started the journey, so I'm excited about it. And what do you think?
As a player, you're always looking ways to improve yourself, improve your health. And this is an easy way. Superpowers made it way easier than when I was playing. You had to go get all these lab panels, and it was a long, drawn-out, expensive process. But now with Superpower, so this is awesome for me. I'm excited about it.
They'll send a licensed professional to your home, or you can visit a nearby lab. For a limited time, the FT fam can get $50 off an annual Superpower membership by using code FOUL at checkout. Just head to superpower.com and use code FOUL to get our exclusive discount. Your biology decoded, your blueprint activated with Superpower. After your purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them, and please support FT and tell them we sent you.
All right, Steven, so let's get right into what everybody really wants to talk about this week with where we are in the baseball calendar, and that, of course, is trades. And, we've seen some, pretty significant trades that have occurred, some lower-level trades. It seemed like that's going to kind of be the level that trades are going to be this year. You're not really going to see a lot of superstar names or even all-star level names involved in trades, more just kind of moves on the margins, role players that could boost bullpens or, bottom of the orders, what have you. But this clearly is, though, a seller's market. What I mean by that is that if you are a clear seller, you could have an opportunity to get a pretty relevant return for now and beyond if that is your goal. And that's where the Braves find themselves. So let's kind of go through the names here, and we'll start with Marcell Ozuna. But Ozuna, of course, has been sitting more often as of late as the Braves have started to transition into that Drake Baldwin, Shawn Murphy catcher DH role, kind of just, giving Marcell Ozuna an indication of how the rest of the season would go, because that's what they're going to be focused on with the future. But the last 2 games, Ozuna has reminded people that he can still make a difference with the bat, and that's great to see. And with the fact that you just don't see the likelihood of many notable names, position player-wise, moving at the trade deadline, that, with Ozuna's recent performance, may boost the return that the Braves could look to get.
Yeah, so this is interesting. So I think the Braves made a very tactical I think they made a very tactical decision when they decided about 3 weeks before the deadline to start sitting Marcell. And I think what they were trying to relay to him, either directly or indirectly, was this is what's going to happen the rest of the season. And so if you want to continue to build your value for your free agency in the winter, what's going to be best for you is if you let us trade you to a team where you'll play every day, because they're trying to win whoever we trade you to is trying to win a playoff game or, win a pennant or whatever it is. And obviously that matters because Marcell has 10-5 rights. He has veto rights on any trade. And so I think the Braves have done that, and I think the message was received. And the reporting that we've gotten is that Marcell is very open to being traded. And I think the Braves are very interested in trading him. And then on top of that, you add that Marcell has actually gotten hot. I think he's got 4 homers in his last 7 starts. He's hit 2 in a row in the last 2 nights in Kansas City. I would be surprised if he's in the lineup again tomorrow, assuming he's not traded. The trade deadline's on Thursday, obviously. So this is going to be interesting because there are not a lot of middle-of-the-order bats. And when Marcell is hitting the ball over the fence, when you add in his already really, really strong on-base percentage, when you add both those together, Marcell is a middle-of-the-order bat. And if you're a team that's trying to win a World Series this year, you can kind of convince yourself of that. And listen, there are plenty of teams in baseball that need more offense, that need more right-handed power. The Rangers, the Mariners, like the Padres, most of them, most teams, honestly. The Yankees just lost Judge for an unspecified amount of time. Like, it's possible they could get something decent for him. They're not going to get like anybody's number one prospect, I don't think, but like a real prospect that's got real potential that a name that you would know. So it has definitely gotten more interesting in the last couple days. And I'm pretty convinced he's going to get traded. I'm at like 85, 90% convinced he's going to get moved. I don't know where you are, but I think the Braves did a smart thing by showing him it's best for all parties if we kind of part ways here. I think he got the message. I think his improved play is going to help a lot. So I'm actually pretty encouraged by this whole development at the moment.
Absolutely. And I wouldn't blame anymore. Like, as a matter of fact, like I would have pulled him after the home run and just said, okay, you've done your part. And yes,
Yeah.
I would be looking to move him. I would definitely be looking to move him. It just makes all the sense in the world. For you're doing right by him. You're doing right by your future. Maybe, especially if you pay down the salary that's owed to him, maybe you can get something decent. We'll talk about, potentially specifically what we might look for in returns in just a moment. So I think it's pretty clear. Marcell Ozuna, especially with the fact that several teams are looking for middle of the order bats, and he clearly likely is not going to cost as much as maybe a Eugenio Suarez or somebody that's controlled beyond this year. There's just a lot of factors that make it make sense for the Braves to move on from Marcell Ozuna. For that same reason, I think a couple of other names that are worth talking about are Raisel Iglesias as well as Pierce Johnson. Now, if the Braves wanted to hold on to Pierce Johnson, I wouldn't blame them at all. But I do think that he is an asset to dangle out there because of the fact I know that every year it seems like that the bullpen market for trades is saturated. But it's because every team needs bullpen help. And you've got so many teams that have already made moves for bullpen help that once again it could have it. And with Iglesias and Pierce Johnson, Steven, the one thing that you have with them that you don't have with others is that they have a long track record of being effective and still are right now, which that reliability certainly matters. Now, I'm going to set the stage here. Steven had a wonderful time, from what I hear, on his cruise with the family, just enjoying life, not having to worry about Braves baseball. But the man is a baseball lifer. He loves baseball. So we're going to open this segment. We're going to spend the next little bit with Tolbert's Tropical Takes. Steven Tolbert, you are on the clock. Let's first start with Raisel Iglesias and the idea of what a trade for him might look like.
Yeah, so Raisel is the most complicated because it's a rental. So you're going to get limited. You're going to get a limited return. You just have to know that going in. Now, excuse me, what I would do 100% with him and Marcell is I would, excuse me, I would trade down these contracts, or I would pay down these contracts. I think Marcell made 16 million this year. So like 1/3 of that is like $6 million, which is what he's owed. Iglesias is very similar. I think Iglesias might be at 17 million. So very similar. So if you look at those guys each are owed about $6 million the rest of the year. Well, there's not a lot of, there's a number of contenders that literally can't afford to add another $6 million to their payroll. And if you force the team that's acquiring them to take on that money, that just limits the number of teams that can do it. If you agree, however, to pay that money, every single team on the trade market that needs a reliever or needs a middle of the order bat is now in play for your guy. And the Braves were already planning on spending this money. Spend the money, pay it down 100%, and get the best prospect you can for both of them. That is my take on Iglesias. I have no idea what he's going to get traded for. Predicting trades is impossible in baseball because even if you try to find like prospect list and who the best guy is, you have no idea how the team itself views each of these prospects because every team is different. Every team views another team's prospects completely different. So picking individual packages is impossible. But for Iglesias and for Marcell, my number one take is pay down the contract. Pay down the contract. Get as many teams involved in these two guys as possible. They're performing decently well at a great time for you. Pay down the contracts, get as many teams involved, and get the best return you can because they're rentals. Their markets are already suppressed. Do the best you can with that by paying down the contracts. Do you have an opinion on that?
Yeah, and I'm going to go one step further. What I would be telling teams, especially these teams like the Texas Rangers who are looking for a bat as well as bullpen help, tell them you'll combine Raisel Iglesias and Marcell Ozuna. Tell them you can have Marcell Ozuna, you can have Raisel Iglesias, and you can have $10 million. Here's the specific top 15 prospect that I want, plus a lottery ticket. That's what I would look to do. Maximize your total value. And I think that you potentially can do that by trading them together for teams that need that type of difference, because there's a lot of teams that need both that middle of the order bat as well as that bullpen help. Getting these guys who have had the track record of Ozuna and Iglesias, I bet that would be an intriguing proposal to someone. Here's Ozuna, here's Raisel Iglesias, and here's $10 million. Let's talk prospects. And that gives you the opportunity to really increase your chances of getting that relevant arm, that relevant position player that you like. That is a strategy that I would potentially implement in the right situation if I were the Braves.
Yeah, I like that. You don't see that a lot. Actually, teams usually prefer trading guys individually because they feel like they can get more. But when it's a rental situation like this, I think that logic actually holds up decently well. Like, combine them instead of getting two lower level prospects, combine them, try to get maybe one kind of more upper level prospect. I don't hate that. So with Pierce Johnson, and this is a controversial one because everybody has a different opinion on what to do with Pierce. First of all, let's be clear about something. And I'm going to throw this take to our guy, Brad Rowland, because he's made this point a bunch and he's 100% right. Pierce Johnson has team control next year. Pierce Johnson has team control next year. If they trade Pierce Johnson, they will have traded a guy that has team control next year. Now, I think they should trade Pierce Johnson, but all the reporting for the last 6 weeks has been the Braves are not trading anybody that's got team control. But for some reason, Pierce Johnson's name keeps being included in like trade articles that he's available. Well, Pierce Johnson has team control next year. Now, yeah, it's a team option. It's not guaranteed money, but that team option is guaranteed to be picked up. So it's basically guaranteed money. So, that's been bugging Brad like crazy. It's been bugging me too. It doesn't actually make any sense that Pierce Johnson's name keeps being included. But my take on Pierce Johnson is he is having a fantastic season. Pierce Johnson has an ERA in the 2.5s. I knew he was having a good year. I did not realize Pierce Johnson had an ERA in the 2.5. Like it's like a 2.56 ERA or something like that. He's having an unbelievable year. When you have a reliever having this good of a year, the odds of his value ever being higher than this are just always not great. That's just how relievers are. And you need to take advantage of that. And I know people are going to say they're going to try to win next year. I still believe you can build a bullpen in the offseason, especially if you've got some decent young guys like they do that they're going to try out for the bullpen probably in the last 2 months of the season. You still have Dylan Lee. I'm not saying you trade away Dylan Lee and just tear the whole thing down, but Pierce Johnson on that deal with a year and a half of team control could bring you back a legitimate, like this is not a rental. You could get a legitimate prospect for Pierce Johnson. And again, it's a reliever. Yeah, he might be good next year. He also might be hurt or suck next year. Look at Daysbell, or not Daysbell. Look at Joe Jimenez from last year to this year. Look at Raisel from last year to this year. That's what happens with relievers. You don't know. They could it's so volatile. If you have one that's good right now that you can move for real value, I think you have to do it. And I understand the argument for not doing it. Trust me, I see it in my mentions every time it gets brought up. I understand the argument, but I'm trading Pierce Johnson. That incredible year he's having another year of team control next year. I think he's probably your best trade chip, honestly. I would do it.
I would as well, because again, to me, it's always, I trust Alex Anthopoulos' ability to go find another reliever between now and next year who can perform at the level of Pierce Johnson. You've got Joe Jimenez coming back next year. You've got Dylan Lee as well. You've been able to find pieces in the past. I know I was an advocate for the bullpen over the past couple months. We've seen as their usage has gone up, as you mentioned, Stephen, they have not been that great. So that's a fair point as well. But this is why I agree with you in trading Pierce Johnson. It's because Alex Anthopoulos, a strength of his, has been going to find underperforming relievers and bring them here to Atlanta, and they perform quite well. Trust in your ability to do that and get value from one that you've already done that with. That's why I would trade Pierce Johnson. So I completely agree. Now, we're talking about trading these guys. And I know that Stephen had mentioned it's hard to really put names to a potential return, but what might we be looking for when it comes to a potential return? I have some thoughts on that, plus more from Tolbert's Tropical Takes after a word from our partners.
Nothing beats relaxing on a hot summer day and watching baseball. And the simplest way to get in on the action is to download the Pick 6 app from DraftKings. It's crazy simple. Just pick more or less on the stats for 2 or more of your favorite players, and boom, you're in the mix for big cash prizes. Nail your picks and you're heating up. Pick 6 brings upside with payouts up to 500 times. Pick 6 from DraftKings is the most fun way to play fantasy sports. Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app now and use code FOUL. That's code FOUL for new customers to get a special sign-up offer. Better payouts, bigger wins. Only with Pick 6 from DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 plus. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
So, of course, if you're here with us, the Braves obviously are playing the Royals as we speak. You know, the result of the game is not that great, but it's, you know, what we're used to. But we're here talking trades less than 24 hours or 48 hours away from the trade deadline. We're in the midst of Tolbert's Tropical Takes, one of 3 takes from Stephen Tolbert, the man himself, back from vacation. His first one was a pretty logical one in discussing Pierce Johnson potentially being traded. We have 2 more that await you as we wrap up this edition of the Hammer Territory podcast. But before we get to that, Stephen, I know that you had just mentioned it's hard to put names to a potential return for the Braves, but I don't think that it's hard to identify what this team needs, and it's them getting what they don't have. And for me, that is 2 potential things. Number 1, I want back a older outfield prospect that has shown a track record of being productive. Maybe it's in college, maybe it's he's blocked and he's had a year or 2 of good major or minor league production. I want that in our system because we don't have that right now. And the reason why we don't have that right now is because we've not been able to identify that. But we need that right now because going into next year, you're going to have Jurickson Profar coming off his PED suspension. Who is Jurickson Profar? Michael Harris, a very disappointing year offensively, though he's picked it up as of late, and I don't think that it should be lost on anyone. Michael Harris has had some injury concerns in the past himself, and of course, Ronald Acuna Jr., who once again, unfortunately, has a bit of an injury scare. You need some outfield depth in the system, some outfield depth that's relevant. Go get that type of talent. The other thing, I want to go get a controllable bullpen arm. Alex Anthopoulos can identify bullpen pieces. We need to get some bullpen pieces that are reliable, that don't cost much. Those are 2 potential things I would focus on.
Yes, I think those are both very good points, especially the outfield, because we have seen, you know, Alex has talked about it. Like, you very rarely, it's like almost like a rotation. You very rarely just need 3 outfielders in a season. And it seems like they have had to go out and get outfielders mid-season in mass more than once, where they've had to go get 2 or 3 outfielders because they have nothing in their system that even resembles like a major league caliber outfielder. One, because they've just been drafting so pitching heavy the last 7 or 8 years, and then add in the international markets where they really haven't been. They just have nothing. And so that's a great one. I agree with that. Relievers, of course, I can hear people already saying we need shortstop prospects. Yes, of course, we'll take any shortstop prospects. I can hear people say we need starters because Bryce Elder is still like the 6th best starter in this franchise. And, you know, I'm not sure how tenable that is going forward. Although the Braves do have some really exciting young pitchers coming into AAA either now or in the next, few weeks, months, whatever. So yeah, I agree with that. And what I would add to that is there is a line of thinking about BPA, which is just best player available. That can also stand for best prospect available, where like you just take the best offer. Like even if it's not necessarily a position that you need, you just take the best, you just get as much value as you can and figure it out. And I do agree with that with some extent, but the outfield need is so dire in the minor leagues for the Braves that I think I would side with you on this, Shawn. I think the Braves do need to target a young, like controllable, exciting outfielder, because every single year without fail, they need outfielders and they have nothing in their system to go get. I've got a couple more takes, but I agree with you. I think they do need to go get an outfielder somewhere in these trades. And if they trade Pierce Johnson, I agree they need to get some sort of relief prospect back where they can, they can reasonably assume that guy is going to be able to play a role in the 2026 bullpen.
Absolutely. And so, and those I think are also reasonable takes, because those type of outfielders, I don't want a lottery ticket. I don't want someone who's really 19. I mean, if you can go get a stud prospect who's 19, who's in the top 5 of somebody's system, by all means, but
Yeah.
Go get a guy who's got a little bit of production. Go get a guy who, may not necessarily be a star, but can call up and eventually be your long-term answer in left field. That's the type of thing.
And I would say teams are usually pretty okay with trading those guys.
Yeah.
It's harder to get like shortstop prospects because everybody wants them, but like outfielders, especially if they're blocked in any way, I feel like there's a reasonable idea.
No. There's a certain Texas Rangers prospect who's number 10 in their system right now. I won't go into this because Steven hates when I talk about former Vols, but my point is that I think that that's something I would target, that in a potential relief arm that could step up as soon as next year. Okay, so back to Tolbert's tropical takes. The first take, of course, was a very, very logical one. Pierce Johnson on the move in a market that should net you a very good return with the need for right-handed relief pitching. Tolbert, tropical takes number 2 when it comes to the trade deadline would be:
if you are going to explore a trade for Sean Murphy in the offseason, there is absolutely no reason not to do it now. And I will give you my logic. So I was sitting on a beach in Jamaica, and I was doing what everybody does. I was reading position by position trade market pieces. And one thing I discovered is that there are no decent catchers to trade in this market. None. Like the best guys like Joey Bart. And there are multiple teams that need good catchers. And here's my logic. If you're going to explore the trade anyways in the offseason, you've already decided which way you're going to go. You're just delaying it. And the reason you're delaying it is because it is hard to trade starting catchers in the offseason. In mid-season. But that's a problem for the team that's buying, not a team that's selling. If somebody wants to bring Sean Murphy in mid-season and they feel like they can get him, adjusted to a new pitching staff on the fly, that's on them. That's their problem. That's not your problem. But if you're going to explore this in the offseason, why not explore it now where there's no other catchers on the market? Sean Murphy's having a terrific season. You could get a tremendous return. Sean Murphy would then be able to contribute to another postseason for the team that's acquiring him, which adds to his value. Now, if you're not going to trade him, if you're not going to trade him in the offseason, if you have decided that you're going to keep both of them into the future, which is a reasonable take, then this is you can ignore this whole take. But if you're going to explore it, I was thinking about this because I was in my head, I was thinking, well, a Sean Murphy trade, that's got to be in the offseason. But then I stopped to think, why does it have to be in the offseason? Because a team has a hard time getting a new catcher up to speed. But if they're willing to do it, they're the one that has to do that. You don't. You just have to get the big return. So if you're going to explore it in the offseason, do it now where there is no other good catchers on the market. There's multiple teams that need a catcher, multiple teams that have really good farm systems that need a catcher. Like, it's on them to get Sean Murphy up to speed on their pitchers. That's not your deal. So If you're going to explore trading Sean Murphy in the offseason, there's absolutely no reason not to do it now. Is take number 2.
So I agree and disagree.
Right.
I think that you make sense in the fact that, listen, you're not suggesting just trade Sean Murphy to trade Sean Murphy. You
No.
obviously don't.
And I want to make that point clear. Only if you're doing it in the offseason anyway.
Yeah.
I'm not saying if they've decided they don't want to trade Sean Murphy, then you can ignore this whole take. But if they have decided we are going to trade Sean Murphy, we're just going to do it in the offseason, that I don't agree with. That I think you could do it now.
Well, and the thing is, the other reason why is because Sean Murphy himself, Sean Murphy's bat by itself would be one of the probably top 5 bats out there.
Correct.
And then you go into being, a potential top 5 defensive catcher who's under control. He'd be a great commodity. I again think that you only trade him if it's an offer that you cannot refuse. And the reason why I would trade to the offseason is because, to me, that may double or triple your pool of teams that potentially would go after Sean Murphy. And then that in of itself could make his market go up to where you can really get an understanding of what you need in return. Because I'm only trading Sean Murphy if I truly am answering a need, which is another significant arm, maybe a shortstop for the future, something along those lines. And if you hold on to Sean Murphy for the rest of the year, you both double up on knowing that Drake Baldwin is the real deal, but also in getting better idea of what you need. So I'm fine if they want to trade Sean Murphy over the next, 1+ days. If they get an offer they simply can't refuse. But in terms of if you're trying to drum up the best value for him, I think you have a better chance of doing that in the offseason than currently.
And one thing I'll say, and I want to say into a microphone, there is absolutely an argument for keeping both guys, like 100%. Because I can hear people say it all the time. Like, why trade them? You always need more than one catcher. 100% true. The logic for trading him is, can you afford to have 2 catchers this good when you have so many other holes on the team? When you could use his value to plug another hole, which is also a fair point. Like, reasonable people can disagree on this one because you can make an argument both ways. So there is absolutely an argument to keep him where it's 150 degrees in the summer in Atlanta. You got to have 2 catchers. The Braves have always had 2 catchers. Keep them both and forget about it. The argument against is, are you going to take Drake Baldwin's bat out of the lineup 50% of the time? Or are you going to DH the other one and give up the DH? Basically every single game, your DH is the other catcher. That's a complicated thing in itself. So there's arguments both ways. My point is, if you have decided you're going to do it in the offseason, I think you should explore doing that. But again, that's a take. People can agree or disagree.
Because the thing that you can't do is that, I know that you mentioned it was complicated. I don't think it's actually that complicated. The Braves cannot, in my opinion, go into next season convincing themselves and people that it's going to be okay keeping Sean Murphy's level of offense and Drake Baldwin's level of offense at the catcher spot, where one would be elite, which is fine, but at the DH spot it would be mediocre. And then they don't do anything to address the fact that they have near worst in the league production at shortstop, second base, and center field. You can't keep both catchers as your catcher and your DH to their expected level of offense and then have near league worst offense up the middle at 3 positions. So if Sean Murphy helps out in one of those areas, and the obvious one is shortstop where it makes sense, in that situation, go ahead and make the move. So my point that I'm getting at is I think that's easier to figure out in the offseason. But if you can make that move now and it makes sense, don't be hesitant to do it now. So not necessarily agree to disagree, agree to a different level, I guess you could say. Now, Pierce Johnson on the move makes logical sense. Sean Murphy being moved now, you can look at it both ways. But I think that we've saved the best for last. Tolbert's Tropical Takes, number 3. Take it away, Stephen Tolbert.
So, full disclosure, this is one I thought about in the shower. And this is one of those you think about where you think, I really should never tell anybody about this. Like, this is just, you're going to get made fun of. You're going to get ripped. But
this is like the song that you sing in the shower that only you and maybe 1 or 2 other people in the world know, but you never would tell anybody. It's that type.
Exactly that type. But I think I think there are people that will agree. I think I can make the case where it's at least logical. Most people will hate it, but I think it's logical.
By the way, that song for me is Adele's "Hello."
That's TMI.
That's it. It's a wonderful song.
That's
It's an
TMI,
amazing song.
Shawn. Nobody needs to know that.
It's absolutely wonderful.
I'm just gonna say it and then I'll give my logic. Man, I'm gonna get ripped for this. I would explore in the next. Well, I would have started a week ago or 2 weeks ago. I would explore trading Spencer Strider. I can't believe I just said that to a microphone. All right, here we go. Here's my logic. Spencer Strider is a slim, right-handed, hard-throwing pitcher. And those guys are historically dubious when it comes to durability. And with Spencer, we have already seen, in his case specifically, durability questions. 2 major elbow surgeries already in his career. Starting next year, Spencer makes $20 million a year. I think it's $20 million, $22 million, and $22 million the year after that. And then I think there's a $5 million buyout on his 29 option. So the Braves owe Spencer Strider $70 million over the next 3 years after this season. There are no starting pitchers on the market. There's never any starting pitchers on the market, and every team in baseball needs starting pitching. And you are at a time where you are both selling, and Spencer Strider is healthy and pitching pretty well. How much do you want to risk that at some point in this contract, you are going to be paying Spencer Strider $20+ million a year to rehab another serious injury versus getting out now with plus value? Somebody would take that contract and give you prospects on top of it because there's always a surplus charge at the trade deadline. There's no starting pitching out there. You could probably get a substantial amount for Spencer Strider, get off that contract. And listen, I trust me. I know what people are going to say. Why would you trade Spencer Strider when you want to win next year? This is about risk management of an asset that is highly risky because this is not Spencer Swallenbach, who still makes league minimum. This is a guy you are paying $20+ million a year to for the next 3 years after this, who's already had substantial elbow troubles in his career, who's already seen a dip in the velo. The velo has not come all the way back. He's still been a really good pitcher, but it has not come all the way back. If that velo dips anymore, you could have a serious problem. So this take is more about risk management. He's healthy right now, and teams all over baseball need starting pitching. You could get off that contract. Trust me, people. I understand why this is crazy. The Braves are 1,000% not going to do it. But I was thinking, man, that's a risky contract. And the Braves can't really literally afford to have a $20 million pitcher just on the sidelines for months if he has another serious injury. He's healthy right now. He's pitching pretty well. Nobody is selling starting pitching. I don't know. I can make the case. The Braves aren't going to do it. Hear that. If you hear nothing else, hear that. The Braves are not going to do this. This is Steven's. Steven was in a 150-degree beach. He got lightheaded and had some half-assed idea and decided to talk about it on the podcast because the team sucks and there's nothing else to talk about. But that's my logic. What do you think? I did not prep Shawn for this. This is Shawn's hearing this for the first time. I wanted to be authentic. I want to hear your gut reaction.
The points that you bring up as to why there would be any logic to it, I think are valid. The amount that you're going to invest in Spencer Strider moving forward goes up significantly. The risk in getting what you got from him 2 years ago of not getting that has gone up significantly because of the returns that we're seeing from him post-serious injury. I get all that. Absolutely. So I don't feel that it is, I think that it's obviously far-fetched, but I don't think that your approach to why it could make sense, I think there's logic to it. With that being said,
the biggest butt in the world is coming. I mean, the biggest butt of all time is coming.
Yeah. With that being said, I definitely would not consider trading Spencer Strider right now. And it's not just because of the name Spencer Strider. It's not just because of what he could be once he gets an offseason of health underneath his belt. One of the biggest reasons why I don't trade Spencer Strider, right now he's your healthiest pitcher with the track record that he's had.
By the fact that he is your only healthy pitcher. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because you're going into 2026 with the fact that your top 6 options, top 7, your top 6 or 7 options: Spencer Strider, Chris Sale, Spencer Swellenbach, Ronaldo Lopez, Grant Holmes, AJ Smith-Shawver, and Bryce Elder. Okay. The only 2 healthy options out of that right now are Spencer Strider and Bryce Elder. And Spencer Strider just came back 2 months ago from an internal brace surgery that basically is just a level down from Tommy John.
So let me add this. I think the point you just made is actually making my point.
But
because if you already have that much injury risk in your rotation,
yeah,
can you afford to have $20 million tied to Spencer Strider when you already have this much injury risk in your rotation? Sale, Schwellenbach, Lopez. Can you afford to have another guy, Spencer Strider, making $20 million, who, quite frankly, you don't know is going to be healthy for any period of that contract?
You have to. That's the point that
Well, no, you don't have to. That's the point. You could explore not doing it.
But in my opinion, if you want to contend, and there's another element to this I'm going to get to in just a moment. Next year, say you trade Spencer Strider, okay? You're going into next year, 37-year-old Chris Sale, who, if healthy, and he should be just fine. He cracked a couple of ribs. His arm's going to be fine. Chris Sale, you think he's a top 20 pitcher in the game next year. Spencer Swellenbach, as long as there's no serious effect from his elbow, you have to think to yourself, okay, he's going to be all right. What is there beyond that for the Braves to have?
Well, but then you got to also include the extra $20 million a year you now have to spend, plus all of the return you got for Spencer Strider.
Okay, that is a fair point. That is a very fair point.
Because with Spencer Strider's injury history, you might be going into next year without him either way.
Fair enough. But you can take the $20 million that you get back from him per year, and you can take the return from him. It's still going to be very, very hard to turn that into what Spencer Strider could be for you.
Could be.
Yeah. But here's the other reason why I don't trade Spencer Strider, and this may be the fact that I put more value on this than you, Steven. I want Spencer Strider in my damn clubhouse. I want Spencer Strider in my damn dugout. That might be the best argument. Yeah. I want Spencer Strider. When Spencer Strider is yelling at the top of his lungs at our coaching staff to pay some damn attention to what's going on, or questioning what they're doing when it's clear that what they're doing is not working, we need that type of leadership in the clubhouse. I want that type of mentality. When we talk about Spencer Strider and the fact that right now he may not be working with as much as he did pre-injury, I still am confident Spencer Strider is going to be a top of the baseball world pitcher, because the mentality that he has is going to allow for him to reinvent himself to be able to be successful for a winner. And I want the Spencer Strider who's going to be motivated in the playoffs to come back and lead our team to playoff victories. Steven, I don't mean to be preaching, because I know that you feel the same way, but I need a Spencer Strider in the Braves dugout now and years moving forward for us to have the chance that I think we're capable of having to be able to win. Because if you trade Spencer Strider for multiple reasons, that's the clearest sign, the biggest sign, that you're probably looking to at least retool, if not rebuild. I'm not to that level yet. I get everything that you said, and everything that you said was clearly logical. But even more than the performance of Spencer Strider is the person of Spencer Strider, and I need that person in the Braves dugout to make this transition back to a contender as successful as possible.
Yeah, that's the bet. I mean, on top of there is a X% chance he could actually get back to best pitcher in baseball level Spencer Strider. That's not there's a very real argument that after just a normal offseason, he comes back to throwing 99, 100, 101 next year, and you're fine. So that is probably the best argument. But after that, the fire the dude plays with and conducts himself with is just something I think the Braves really do desperately need. And so, yes, I agree with you. That is, I think, the best case for not doing it. But I do not like having injury-prone pitchers signed to $20+ million contracts. And if you get to a trade deadline where you're selling and he's healthy and there's no other pitchers on the market, man, I would at least be tempted to see what's out there. The Braves are not doing this. Please hear that. This is an exercise in hypotheticals because the team sucks and it's trade deadline season. And this is the stuff that people like us talk about. But it did come across to me as like, man, you can really make a strong argument. It's not going to happen, but I do think you can make an argument.
And I want to make it clear on my end as well, my passion with the idea of the fact that the Braves, if they ever considered Spencer Strider, they need to let competence reign and not trade him. Stephen Tolbert has that competence. He has that. He's one of the smartest people when it comes to covering the Braves that I met in my time.
Well, anybody who just listened to this episode is going to disagree with you.
Well, I don't. I'm not sitting here preaching about Spencer Strider because Stephen needs convincing of that. He knows what Spencer Strider is capable of, but he also knows the value of the person of Spencer Strider. The reason why I'm preaching about the person that Spencer Strider is because we need as much of that type of mentality. We need that as much type of that accountability and that passion to win as possible as we can get in that damn clubhouse over the next 6 months to get back to being a contender. That's the biggest reason why I put faith in the fact that Spencer Strider is going to play a major part in us once again being a contender, and I hope to God he has the opportunity to show his full worth in playoff series for years to come. Stephen, do you have anything else as we wrap up this edition of the Hammer Territory podcast? I didn't mean to get us in the pulpit tonight, Stephen, but here we are.
Listen, the first episode back in a while, I wanted to bring some takes. I was literally sitting in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean just thinking of like what are some of the hottest takes I could come up with. So yeah, it's always, I mean, listen, trades are always hilarious and fun to talk about. We've got a trade deadline coming 6 p.m. on Thursday. I'm pretty sure Shawn and I are going to do another show tomorrow. Obviously, there will be an emergency show for anything that happens. Please do not send me DMs and text about trading Spencer Strider. Listen, guys, it's just an exercise in hypothetical takes. Nobody freak out on me. But any trades that do actually happen, I think Rossiel Iglesias is getting traded. I think Marcell Ozuna is getting traded. Pierce Johnson, I think he should get traded. Whether he does is probably more 50-50. But whatever happens, we are going to cover it in the next 48 hours. I think Brad and Scott are going to do a show Thursday night to recap it all after the deadline is passed. But you will be hearing from us multiple times in the next 48 hours.
So while all this conversation was fun and enjoyable, we also want to make sure that we are fully covering the team to the minute of what occurs. There has been further reports on Ronald Acuna Jr. Ronald Acuna Jr. is in a walking boot, and he will be going on the IL. Now, this makes things a bit more concerning. I'm not going to sit here and act like that I'm someone that knows how the medical prognosis and all this stuff goes when it comes to this type of injury. But what I will say, if you follow the NBA, you know how quickly something can turn when it comes to the Achilles from a strain to something more serious. I'm not saying anything has indicated that that has been the case. But the fact that Ronald Acuna Jr. is leaving the stadium in a walking boot and is going on the IL, that is a bit more concerning than where we were 30 minutes ago. So do want to give that report.
Actually, I changed my mind. Trade them all. Trade everybody. I don't care.
As we're recording this podcast, again, the latest when it comes to Ronald Acuna Jr. as of a few minutes ago is that, again, he, per Mark Bowman, he is in a walking boot and he is going on the IL. This was from about 25 and 15 minutes ago.
Oh, my God. Mark Bowman said he was holding back tears talking to the media.
Yeah. Oh, my God. So we will have more, obviously, on this as time goes on. Obviously, we're also waiting to hear more on the official prognosis on Grant Holmes. So it could potentially be a very, very significant week for the Braves, not only this year, but it looks like that things could be even worse than we expected from this point on. Hope to God that's not the case. But again, it's been a lot of fun speculating about trades, but it just got more real now that
I'm going back to the Atlantic Ocean. This is
again that we're talking about. Once again, we're talking about serious injuries. Of course, we'll be with you nonstop with coverage when it comes to the Braves. Myself, Stephen, as well as Brad and Scott. Make sure to check out all the great content when it comes to Hammer Territory across all forms of social media, Foul Territory across all forms of social media as well. Myself, Stats SAC, Shawn Coleman on X/Twitter, Stephen Tolbert as well. We may or may not do another quick Hammer Territory podcast as we get more news when it comes to Ronald, or any more news tonight when it comes to trades. Make sure to stick with us. Listen, go Braves. Until next time, we'll talk to you again soon here on the Hammer Territory podcast.